Welcome to ChatGPT for Teachers. We'll start with a brief overview of ChatGPT's capabilities. Next, we'll learn how it works. Finally, we'll look at some situations that every teacher will need to consider. ChatGPT is what's called a large language model. That term is based on the vast amounts of text used to train it. Large language models are part of a category called generative AI. Generative AI can create content such as text, images, or audio without human intervention. Let's see what it can do. First, I ask for a short summary of the Revolutionary War as told by Ben Franklin. It provides an accurate result that fits the parameters of my request. Next, I ask it to explain how to solve an algebraic equation. The formatting leaves something to be desired, but the solution and steps are correct. Finally, I ask it to write a song about the accounting equation to the tune of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. ChatGPT isn't going to get a record deal, but it's quick and correct. There are various ways you and your students can use ChatGPT. It excels in certain areas, while in others it may exhibit more confidence and expertise. Determining how it can be useful to you requires some trial and error. For sure, it can do some tasks better than your students can, and therein lies the challenge. This isn't a new issue for math teachers. Even 25 years ago, graphing calculators were deliberately limited to ensure they couldn't do too much for students. Today, smartphone apps can seem almost magical in their ability to solve math problems. That's why students don't take unsupervised math exams and aren't assigned take-home math projects. Contrast that to social studies or English, where they independently write reports and essays. Right now, there are 3 different versions of ChatGPT. If you have a free account, you'll get the legacy version 3.5. If you have a paid account, you can access a faster variant of 3.5 that is better at creating concise summaries. Additionally, the paid account gives you limited access to GPT-4, which has even better reasoning and conciseness. So why is this important? Because there's already a digital divide in AI. Some students have better access to generative AI tools than others. Image generation AIs like DALL-E and Midjourney also have free and paid tiers. A variety of specialized AI tools are only accessible to subscribers. And it isn't just a matter of cost. There's a certain amount of training required to use these tools well. Some kids will learn AI at home while others won't. Arguably, schools have a responsibility not only to prevent AI from being used for cheating, but also to ensure that the benefits of AI are accessible to all. Let's learn how these large language models like ChatGPT work. You've probably used an autocomplete tool on your cell phone or Gmail. You can think of autocomplete as a primitive version of ChatGPT. Let me demonstrate. Okay, so I started up Gmail with Smart Compose enabled, and I'm writing a message. I start typing my message, and you can see the gray text. That's Smart Compose suggesting what to type in next. I'm going to accept that suggestion and continue writing. Here, I could get another prompt, but a simple tool like Smart Compose will only make a suggestion when it has a high confidence of what comes next. The GPT model is several orders of magnitude more sophisticated, so it will consider the relative probabilities of words that could come next. I came up with some possible continuations that range from more probable to less probable. The sentence fragments at the bottom have lower probabilities, but that's only relative to the fragments at the top. Many words have much lower probabilities, like elephant or xylophone. Those words have very low probabilities because they don't make sense grammatically or contextually, and the GPT model isn't even going to consider them. Let's talk more about how ChatGPT picks what words come next. First, it breaks down the input into smaller parts called tokens. A token could be a short word or part of a longer word. Then, it analyzes the content using grammar and language patterns. Next, it calculates the probability for all possible next tokens. Now, it adjusts the probabilities of the tokens using the temperature parameter. Temperature is configured to a numerical value. A higher temperature value means more variety, but possibly less clarity. A lower temperature value means it will be more on point, but probably less imaginative. So you might think, oh, I'd prefer a lower temperature because those tokens will better predict what should come next. However, if the temperature is too low, the writing will sound flat and boring. If you want something creative, you will want a higher temperature setting. It may come up with something that doesn't quite make sense or fit the context, but it will consider some lower probability tokens. With creative writing, an author should give you something you don't expect. There's a risk there for both human and computer authors. Now, there's some randomness in play too. A token with a higher probability is more likely to get chosen, but it isn't guaranteed to be selected. That's why if you run the exact same prompt several times, you may get different results. If I'm doing technical writing, I probably want a lower temperature setting. If I'm telling a story, I probably want a higher temperature, with the understanding I might have to regenerate the response if it comes out a little wonky. Then, the model will choose the next token based on relative probability and a random number generator. Finally, it repeats steps 3, 4, and 5 until it finishes. Now that you know how ChatGPT works, let's consider some hypothetical situations your students might face. Think about which of the following examples you consider acceptable uses of ChatGPT. Let me know in the comments which ones you feel strongly about. I'll be moving quickly, so I encourage you to pause and read the prompts and responses. Suppose you ask your students to write about their most exciting day. A hypothetical student writes this story and feeds it into ChatGPT. No problem so far. In my second prompt, I ask it to identify and explain spelling and grammar errors. I'm being very specific about what I want it to do because by default, ChatGPT wants to do a lot. For my grade and content area, this is fine. It isn't going beyond what the grammar checker in Microsoft Word or a third-party application like Grammarly would do. All right, this one asked it to correct the previously identified errors. I'm being specific in that I only want those particular errors fixed because otherwise it will correct some mistakes we haven't identified yet. This I have a problem with because I'm not individually validating the errors and corrections. ChatGPT might get something wrong and the student may miss out on some learning about proofreading. Here, I ask it to identify and correct factual errors. Whether this is appropriate may depend on the educational context. I might be okay with the software identifying the mistakes, but I'd want to confirm the accuracy of the corrections. If initially I had told ChatGPT to correct all errors, it would have corrected these without the accompanying explanation. Here, I ask it to rewrite and remove the illegal activities. I worry about the societal impact of the ability to outsource our lying to machines. People are more likely to lie and be dishonest if they are a step removed from it. And now, please improve the writing. While this may be a valuable tool under the right circumstances, to me, this is way too much automation for an academic setting. Here's the other thing. Pretty soon, students will be using generative AI like ChatGPT and won't even realize it. The GPT API can be integrated into smartphone apps or software applications in a way that may be almost invisible to the user. Microsoft owns a significant stake and plans to integrate GPT's functionality into Word. Google's large language model, called Bard, will likely end up integrated into Google Apps. These are amazing tools that have the potential to have enormous benefits for productivity and learning. However, like with any powerful tool, we need to figure out when and how it can support learning versus hinder it. So my call to action is that we as teachers and administrators need to start discussing this internally. We also need to expect that a 4th grade math teacher will have an entirely different use case for AI than an 8th grade history teacher or an 11th grade English teacher. If I were looking to hire a consultant to help out, I would be wary of someone selling me a solution. I'd be looking for someone to help me set up internal teams of educators to evaluate AI tools and decide on customized policies. And finally, I'm going to leave you with a request. Tell me in the comments what your thoughts are so far about AI, and have you and your colleagues come up with ideas that can help other educators. Also, what questions do you have that I can explore in future videos?